I'm going to introduce you to the project that I did for the ISPA Superteacher competition. And I also did this at school. I only had 3 weeks in which to do it, and I only had my class for 3 hours a week. Okay, so it was quite a squeeze, but it was quite successful in my eyes. The topic is learning critical thinking and problem solving skills by creating a mobile device application. So without further ado, let's keep going. Here we go. Next. Oh, look, it's a rotating cell phone. That's pretty cool. Okay, 3D objects on an Excel PowerPoint slide. Who knew? Okay, let's do this. Right, the tools that I used two main tools, and then the developer tool. I used OneNote to start. OneNote is a fantastic program that I absolutely adore. I then used Microsoft Teams, and of course OneNote is built into Teams, so it actually made life very easy for me. And I used Thunkable. Thunkable is the online application that we made use of to actually create the application. Now, I just want to say that if you do want to do something like this, OneNote is free and Teams is also free. And OneNote is built into Teams and it is exceptionally powerful. I'll show you a little bit more later on how we did it. Right, so it was kind of like a journey. So if you look at my cool animation of the car driving on the road, that's my metaphor for a journey. So let's have a look and see what this journey entails. I had 3 phases. I broke the project down into 3 phases to cover the 3 weeks, and I got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So let's have a look at phase 1. Phase 1 was getting the students introduced to what the project was all about and introducing them to OneNote. Okay, they were in Teams and they opened up their OneNote files through Teams, and just to show them what the divisions and pages all looked like. So here you can see I had what this project is about, your journey overview, phase 1 demo, informational videos, etc. So their OneNote books were all set up for every student, plus information that I thought was relevant to put in there. Another page was flowcharts. They had to learn how to do flowcharts in order to look at problem solving, and they had to then read up on flowcharts with the information that I gave them, and then they could also then have some demo flowcharts that I found online, and I just showed them different demos of flowcharts. In their phase 1, in their part of their notebooks, they had to then answer questions. So they had to tell me what was their definition of a problem and how would they go about solving a problem. So what is their definition of a problem? If they made use of any online references, they had to reference it underneath. And then also if they made any use of references for solving a problem, they had to reference that as well. Phase 2. Phase 2 was looking at the operating system and the graphical user interface. Again, in the notebook, in the library that I shared with all of them, they had access to a PowerPoint file called the OS and the GUI, the operating system and the graphical user interface. They would then watch the PowerPoint file and then they'd have to answer questions on that a little bit later. Carrying on from the flowcharts, they'd have to then write down a problem or identify a problem in their environment, their community, their peer group, their family, their home, their school, their anywhere, and they had to then write it down and then also create a flowchart as to how they would go about solving or trying to make that problem not so much of a problem. Here you can see again in their notebook, everything happened in their notebooks. There was no pen or paper used in this project, not once. They had to answer all the questions there, and that they got marked on that as well. When we moved on to phase 3, phase 3 was now the actual engaging with the interface of creating an app. So we could choose we used Thunkable and we could choose iOS, okay, the Apple apps, or APK, which is for Android devices. They could pick one or the other. The nice thing is that in Thunkable, if you're creating an app in their new interface, you can port that to APK or iOS and it works on both. It is so you design one app, it works on both platforms, which is pretty cool. So here's an example. There was an interface over there, graphical user interface, and of course then the block coding. This is the beauty of learning to program an app with Thunkable. It's all block coding, drag and drop. Very, very cool, very easy to pick up and learn. So phase 3 was obviously the practical parts of the project. In their notebooks, again, I asked them for screenshots of the application graphical user interface design. So as they were going, they needed to show me their progress in screenshots. And then, of course, the block code as well. You can see different pictures, different progressions on the block coding as well. They would then submit their app. I kept in touch with them via Microsoft Teams. We had a channel, just a general conversation tab or a general conversation channel, and I would put information there, just remind them of their dates, deadlines, etc. Any information I thought that they would find useful, I popped in there. And of course, then in the files tab, I could also then put a whole lot of video tutorials or anything that I thought would help them. The assessment was a rubric-based assessment. I created 3 phases, well, 3 steps for each phase, 1, 2, and 4. These are the mark allocations. And then based on what skills I was looking for in terms of the critical thinking, the reflection, the problem solving, the logical thinking, etc., I would make sure that I looked at all of that in each phase. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 all had their own criteria. The APK file, the actual file that they submitted, was also assessed, as well as the look and feel of the application, the user experience of the application. Couple of thoughts, afterthoughts for myself. I think this kind of project really needs a lot more time than what I was able to give to it. I only had 3 weeks, very short time. You could probably do this over 12 weeks. Really get a really proper professional looking app at the end of the project. I would have liked time for the students to reflect at the end of each phase or at the end of each stage of their work. So especially with phase 1, have they actually identified what is a problem? How do we go about solving a problem? How do we critically reflect on something when we've attempted to solve a problem? Testing and changing. Again, I found a lot of students got stuck into the interface, and they started enjoying using Thunkable, but then realizing sort of halfway through that they hadn't thought it out clearly enough, and then they had to change their ideas or change a few things, go back to the beginning. So I would like to encourage the students next time, if I do something like this, to keep testing. Once you start your coding and you start your interface, keep testing and change as you go, but keep remembering to go back. You can always go back and change. Coding last, thinking first. Okay, they love getting stuck into Thunkable and getting the code and looking at it on their phones and seeing that it was actually working, but they kind of forgot all about the stuff that they planned in phase 1 and phase 2. So that sort of stuff just disappeared into the background. So I need to think about that as well. Anyway, thank you. That was the project in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed that, and that has inspired you to do something yourself in lines with what I've done. If you are interested in trying this out, I'm going to make the project files available. I'm going to give you a demo notebook file, and show you what I used and how I created the rubric as well. Thank you.